This is a completely different issue that really has not gotten the attention that it deserves, that women are really having problems finding committed reproductive partners to have children with them.
Another episode of Girls Gotta Eat.
Welcome back.
It's Gemini season. Did you think I was going to forget? You thought I forgot?
Yes, I thought you were going to forget. When have you ever said it? Did you think I was going to forget?
I never said it. I shot up in the middle of the night last week and I was like, I forgot to mention it on the episode.
It is.
It is.
Happy Gemini season.
You troll me all Cancer season. So
troll you. I just celebrate myself.
Well, word up to all my Geminis out there and all your dual personalities.
Oh, hi, little Pisces boy. Oh, okay, just
eating licking your mouth.
He doesn't lick or do kisses, so okay. Oh. If people want to know, this is a hot tip from Lisa, Dr. Lisa, my celeb vet. Some dogs don't lick or kiss, but that sniffing and basically sneezing in your face is their same way of showing affection.
Love language, sneezing on your face.
Because Matt always says Reggie is the same way, my brother's dog, a sniff and a sneeze. So if they give you a sniff and a sneeze as opposed to because I don't want a dog's tongue in my mouth. I'll take it.
You'll take a sneeze on your lips though.
Oh my God.
I let him do it, but I don't like it.
So let us know in the comments. Do you prefer to French kiss your dog or do you want him to sneeze on your face?
Animals can't get COVID, right?
There was one case.
They'd be crazy if you got COVID from Azul.
Well, every time he sneezes in my face, I'm kind of that doesn't feel healthy.
No, it's probably not, but it's love. That's what love is.
Also, I am on my first day of my first period since I got off birth control. It kicked in a little more than a month, so it wasn't exactly 28 days. It was 5 weeks, I think, at this point. And I will say this kind of sucks today. I just feel it in my stomach. It's I was saying, it's not a cramp. It's just that pressure, pain, just blah.
I got a little worried. Our cycles have synced up, which is nice.
I think they're absolutely going to now. Two essentially naturally cycling bitches that are together all the time. We're going to be on the exact same cycle.
We've been synced up and I was worried you weren't going to get it at the same time as me and we got it the same week.
But I will say
I sneezed and a ton of blood came out of me.
Oh my God. You are so bloody. I just didn't. I felt a little sluggish this weekend, but I also drank and I just didn't have this debilitating PMS, which I'm so excited about. I PR'd yesterday on my Peloton class. I am really excited because I was so worried about the luteal phase, the PMS, and that could still come. I'm only starting this journey. So anyway, I'm happy, I'm not pregnant because, this past month.
It'd be really weird for your brand. If you got pregnant. You've really been beating the no kids drum.
Well, I wouldn't. That's not. Having a kid would be weird for my brand, but getting pregnant, that'd be pretty on brand. If I got pregnant 2 weeks after I got birth control for the first time and got pregnant. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, also your PR is so funny to me because I could double the amount of time I'm on a Peloton and I still probably wouldn't hit your PR for 30 minutes.
I mean, I have a lot more body
your legs
power,
are
and I've been doing this for 10 years.
Well, I was thinking about this because when I walk behind you, you cover a lot more distance than me at the same velocity. So is that the same thing you think?
I just have a lot more power coming from my body, with so much more height. And again, I probably am stronger. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been in the game a while.
Been in the game all right, let's thank some of our partners. We'll get back to it. Thanks to Babbel for supporting Girls Gotta Eat. You only need 10 minutes to complete a lesson so you can start having real life conversations in as little as 3 weeks. Right now, get up to 55% off your subscription when you go to babbel.com/GGE. And thanks to HelloFresh for supporting Girls Gotta Eat. Go to HelloFresh.com/GGE16 and use the code GGE16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping.
Yes, and thanks to Buffy for supporting Girls Gotta Eat. Buffy makes award-winning bedding that's soft on you and soft on the earth. For $20 off your Buffy order, visit buffy.co and enter promo code GGE. And thanks to Athletic Greens for supporting GGE. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system. Just one scoop and a cup of water every day. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/GGE.
So we have this brand new studio and we love it so much. We're so proud of it.
Yeah.
We'll do photos for you guys of it. If you're watching YouTube, you see it.
My nails match.
Oh, your nails look really great. My nails match the wallpaper.
Oh my God.
And your nails match the sign.
Look at this.
I was thinking our nails look really good for this episode together.
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh.
So we designed this. It was really fun for us. And the person who did our sign, the company's called Vintage Roots, and she did our last sign as well. So this one's just bigger than the last one. I just love how she did it. There's like not like a big plate behind it. So it's just kind of sits against the wall. If you guys want to check her out, she's _Vintage Roots on Instagram. She's fantastic.
Well, and we found her through Andrew Schultz.
Oh, right.
Because when he moved his studio to Miami during COVID, we were like, that sign looks so dope against the wallpaper. And so, I mean, he's really the goat of like the studio space whole thing. So we found him through her, which I'm glad we did.
Yeah. So check her out if you want. We love her stuff. And we'll do more videos and stuff at the studio. But check us out on YouTube, on our YouTube channel.
So I'm wearing my New York sweatshirt today, and we were just planning a New York trip for your birthday.
I'm so excited because I'm
Gemini season. And I'm so excited.
We have a lot of plans for birthdays coming up. Excited.
So you and I, for the past 3 years, have done birthday boats, and yours is always in New York. So I really like that you're keeping with your tradition, even though we don't live there. We're randomly going to be in New York on your birthday. I'm going to do the boat, and then we're doing a boat for my birthday, but we're going to be in Cabo. But this is our thing. We've done this for 3 years.
Never not a boat.
You do New York. I do not in New York.
I know. And we do a trip for yours. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's really like we have these good traditions. I might have this guy come.
I'm going to fly by myself on my birthday like I made you do on your birthday last year.
Yeah. You know what? I kind of felt bad. Then I was like, she abandoned me last year on the streets of Barcelona.
I made you go to a bodega in Spain that you didn't like on your birthday, and then I made you fly by yourself. So
yeah, who's a better friend?
You had a bad birthday. You lost your luggage that day.
Yeah.
That was a bad
It was
day.
the worst birthday
Ever.
It was
me.
I mean, I was so, blessed to be on that trip and stuff. But yeah, my actual birthday was a canceled flight and lost luggage. Yeah. So sick, dude.
We're going to have a redo this year.
It started with Rayna leaving me in the morning, and then I got blisters on my feet, walking around all day in sandals, and then canceled flight, lost luggage. So we're going to do a redo.
Better die.
It's a tough summer for luggage, just across the board.
It was a tough summer for luggage. I bought luggage tags last summer.
But yeah, I'm really excited to be able to do this and plan this really fun trip.
Yeah. And also, we want to say that this week is our 1-year anniversary of our other company, Vibes Only. And we just want to thank you guys. I mean, it has been really successful. It's been an amazing ride. We have this e-commerce business with all these incredible sex toys and blow gels and lube and all kinds of fun stuff. And then we have an app that has a remote and all this content. Ashley and I have worked so hard to just make this 360 experience for you guys. So you can have all the sex and sexiness in one place. And we're so proud of this company. And thank you guys for supporting it, because it is successful because of you and because you guys trust us to promote great products and great content for you. So
yes, it's been a wild ride. It's been so fun and also challenging along the way. And it's worth it when we get these incredible emails and DMs about helping people have their first orgasm, or introducing toys in the bedroom, or enjoying blowjobs more, or just getting into erotic audio. And what this girl said, she DM'd and said she was listening to one of the erotic stories in the app, which was phone sex with your ex, which is a hot one. It's one of my top faves. And it's this sexy voice, and it's like, yeah, you're having phone sex with your ex. And she's like, I'm about to call my ex. Like, I'm about to get back with my toxic ex. We're like, don't do it.
I know. We're like, cut bangs instead. Stop.
That's so funny.
Yeah, you guys have really bought, especially the lube and the pina colada blow gel and the different flavors, and sent us crazy stories about how it's just like made your sex lives better. And we love to hear it. And your partners are buying it for you. And we're just so proud of these toys. They sell out over and over again, and they're unique and different. We want to provide you guys with something really high end that's fun to shop and fun to use in the bedroom. And we'll keep releasing new stuff. But if you get into the app, obviously the remote's free with everything. If you guys aren't familiar with the toys, they're all Bluetooth connected to a remote. There's great erotic audio that Ashley is in charge of all that content, and I do all the video content. So there's a lot of really fun stuff in the app, and we are doing a sale right now. It will be tomorrow. If you're listening on Monday, it will be tomorrow, June 6th. For 24 hours for our 1-year anniversary, we're doing 20% off absolutely everything on the site. It is our biggest sale that we have ever done.
Yeah.
So you can sign up for the newsletter, and you can go to our Instagram at Vibes Only and vibesonly.com on the website, sign up for the newsletter.
Yes. So we love our newsletter. It's so much fun, and there's always just goodies in there and discounts here and there and stuff that you're not going to get anywhere else. So sign up for the newsletter at vibesonly.com. Follow Instagram vibes only. And I just love hearing how this has improved people's like solo pleasure and also with their partners. Like the amount of DMs that I get about the blow gel alone.
Totally.
And also the butt plug, people getting into butt stuff. And I just love it. There's really something for everyone. And we have more coming, no pun intended. So
yeah, thanks for supporting the company. We appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
This is the last week to get tickets for Ohio shows.
Yes.
So there might be a couple left in Cincinnati
Cleveland.
and Columbus. Cleveland, there's definitely tickets left.
So we'll see you guys in Ohio, all over Ohio.
Yes.
We're coming all over Ohio.
And you guys, this is the last time we're coming anywhere this summer except for in our own beds and maybe boats. So we have no more shows until September, until the fall. So if you want to come to these shows and you know the drill. If you are coming to the show, roast your friends, the people that you are bringing with you, tell us funny things about them. You can email stories@girlsgottaeat.com.
Yes, good call. So that means you, Ohio people. So you're coming to the show, send us funny emails about your group.
Yeah, and that's the subject line, city you're coming to.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so speaking of being like on the road, I had this kind of funny story that I didn't share because we had like a lot to talk about last week, and I just thought it would be funny to share. So when we went to DC, so our May tour was Chicago first, this middle weekend was Philly and DC, and the last weekend was Boston. So basically, I thought that I might meet up with this guy in DC. I don't need to get into all the details, but I thought that we might have like a rendezvous in DC, and we checked into the hotel, and my parents were coming to DC, and I put them up in the same hotel as us. It was a great hotel. It's called The Riggs, and it's like in an old bank. Like you check in like a bank lobby, like the tellers. It's so cool. They were so nice. Everyone there was so wonderful. There's a great bar downstairs, like a speakeasy. I had brunch with my family for Mother's Day brunch the next morning. It was great. So I check in. They were so amazing. This guy, Antonio, at the desk checked us in. They made us a reservation for the speakeasy that night. And I go up to my room and I was like, what is that noise? It sounds so loud. And it was like, I think the housekeeping was in the room next door. Bottom line, I realized there's adjoining rooms.
Okay.
Like, you know, some hotels have like adjoining rooms.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't like it. There's a door and the other person.
I'm triggered by that one time we had adjoining rooms and we had that fight. Like,
Oh my God. Yes.
I was standing on the other side of the door, like rocking back and forth, like,
Oh my
don't
God.
knock,
Yes.
don't knock. And then I know I can't have them anymore. I'm triggered by it.
It is amazing if you're with your friend. Because then you have like an open, it's like almost like staying in a suite together if you have adjoining rooms. Otherwise, I don't want it. You're too close for comfort to the people next to you.
I can't do it.
And then I remember, oh shit. Antonio had said something about my parents coming in. He was like, we have another Hesseltine coming in. I was like, oh, that's my family. And they're coming in right behind us. And I'm like, I bet the way these hotel people are, because when you come together, they always want to put you close. They always want Rayna and I next to each other. And so I was like, I bet when my parents check in, he's going to want to put them in the next room.
That is crazy to me. Listen, I understand friends, kind of. We never want to stay next to each other because if one of us has sex, I can't ever hear it. But parents is crazy to put you next to.
I just think it's like this family traveling together. So I go down. I go down to the front desk, and I was like, Antonio, listen, I know you know my parents are coming in and I booked this room for them. And I just want to make sure that they are not next door to me because I'm trying to get it in. All these other people are hearing this. Like they're very close proximity. They're like, that bitch is crazy. And he starts laughing. He's like, oh my God, I got you. And I was like, were you going to put him on the 4th floor with me? And he was like, I absolutely was.
Absolutely.
And I was like, floor is fine, not ideal, but you guys are busy. Like, can we just not get him next door to me, especially in this adjoining fucking room? So he's like, I'll do my best. And I'm in like room 411 or something. He's like, how about room like 430? I'm like, that sounds fine, whatever. And then it was funny because I go back upstairs and I'm realizing that like those two rooms where I'm going to be and where they're going to be are pretty significantly farther apart. But then I'm like, I don't want this adjoining room at all. I don't want some other person right on the other side of the door.
No,
so I pop out in the hallway randomly. This manager is walking the hall and she's like, can I help you? And I kind of explain the situation to her. She's like, let's get you out of this adjoining room. So then they put me in another room that is literally only 2 doors from my parents. So then I was like, I can't go back. I've made too much of a scene.
Can you imagine if your dad specifically saw a guy walk out of your room, the scene he would cause in the hallway?
So I was like, I can't be this high maintenance. These people are being so wonderful. And at least I don't have an adjoining room because that's the nightmare. I don't like it. I could hear every sound in that adjoining room.
I don't want it. Have you just justified to me?
I was really only like 2 doors down from them, but at least we weren't next door. And I never ended up seeing that guy. So
it all worked out.
But when I was running up and down this hotel and the guy at the front desk was like, girl, I get it. And I got you. Let's figure this out for you. It was just so funny.
I also had a funny experience with the staff there that I have not like told anybody.
What?
Because I, it was so funny. fucked up when we checked into that hotel. I was like hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
Like Ryan had to go get me Pedialyte. And I was like, the only thing I can do is like order a burger to like feel better. And so I ordered food and like I had on stretch pants and a very small bra. And I hear a knock at the door.
You told me this, I think.
Yeah, I told you. I hear this knock at the door and I just like don't have it in me to put a shirt on. Like I just couldn't do it. And I was just like, I don't care. Who cares? Whoever's on the other side of this door, they're not going to say anything. And so I opened the door and the guy brought the food in and I'm like, whatever. My nipples are hard. He's like looking at me and I'm like, he's not going to say anything. No way. And he, on his way out the door, he stops and he leaves me with a final thought. And he's like, can I just say something to you? This is a little unprofessional. And I was like, what's he going to do? And he was like, you look very hot.
Oh my God.
And I was like, you lie. You lie. I looked like I was on my deathbed. But I was like, is he going to say something? And honestly, he was like kind of hot and I didn't hate it. And like, had I been in better spirits, I might have tried to fuck that guy. I feel sad about it. I feel like it's like such a fantasy.
Missed
Room
opportunity.
service guy. I could tell he like wrestled with it. He like wasn't sure if he could say it. I didn't feel like it was predatory in any way. He was halfway out the door. I couldn't care less. But also it was very flattering.
Well, then, like, when we checked into Chicago, the AC was not working and they sent someone up and he
looks like Mike Cannon.
He was okay. He was like on her from the back, but like he came up and was he married? Or someone later told us he had a girlfriend. Remember we talked to the manager? And she, like,
yes, the manager said he had a girlfriend.
Yeah, he wasn't wearing a ring. Or I actually can't remember. I wasn't trying to hit on him, but in my head, I was like,
oh, the manager at the rooftop at the Hoxton told us that guy has a wife or a girlfriend.
Yeah, and he was so wonderful. But like he came up and he's, kind of waiting around for it to reset. And so we're just like chatting and I'm like, this again is one of those moments, like those things can happen and you feel how they could very easily. You just start chatting. I mean, I like went on a date with a TaskRabbit. Like it happened.
Of course. I try to go on dates with my TaskRabbit all the time. I just keep employing him.
Can I just say that I said TaskRabbit is a good way to date and Rayna said, hold my beer. Like I was the original one to be like, hey, you should look into this. And you were like, you know what I'm going to do? They're going to be over here every day. Like you really were like, hold my beer.
I do have like secret rendezvous. You're like, how'd you put the sign up in the studio? I was like, the TaskRabbit came over last night. Well, you said you got to search for the hottest ones in the app, so I did do that.
Yeah, we'll talk about this some more at the live shows. But yeah, I did go out with the guy that came over was a TaskRabbit. I recapped it in full on Francis and Julio's podcast.
Oh, you did?
On Oops. Yeah, recently. But I've just kind of been like saving some of it for the live shows. Here I am just burning jokes.
I'm also flirting. I'm in a flirt situation with the contractor of the house next door.
That's your man. I love it. You guys have like a little tension.
Flirty banter.
You're like kind of combative with each other. You're going to fuck that guy.
I got to tell you this thing that you were making fun of me about so hard. I'm going to fuck all you guys up because you're going to be like, I hear it all the time now. I was on the phone with him and I said comfortability. Basically what happened was that I'm in touch with the contractor next door because there's been a lot of construction next door and I was very concerned about how loud it was going to be. So
I got studio.
Yes.
And your life.
My life. Yes. But actually I was more concerned about the studio. We just built the studio and I was like, okay, they're demolishing the house next door. So I get in touch with the contractor. I'm on the phone with him and he mentions that this will probably last a year. And I spontaneously burst into sobs. I am hysterical on the phone crying. Like the kind of like you can't get air into your lungs. You're crying so hard. And then I like calmed down a little bit and him and I are like talking and I was like for like my own comfortability. And like for my own comfortability, I don't even know what to do. I'm crying so hard. And he just lets me kind of like get it all out. And he's like, I hear you and I'm going to work with you, blah, blah, blah. But comfortability isn't a word.
This is what I'm saying. Like you guys are like sparring. Like, and what is the word I'm looking for? You have like
banter.
No, but like you're like fighting a little bit. Like it's this.
We already have tension.
Yeah, I guess that's fighting. The word. I can't find the word.
So he was like, comfortability isn't a word. And I was like, it's a word. And he was like, I studied grammar in college. And I was like, well, I talk for a living and comfortability is a word. And he was like, no, it's not. So then we got off the phone. I looked up. It is not a word. And then you let me know that I actually frequently.
Rayna loves to add a little extra to words.
What did you say?
Intentionality. You've been roasted for this with the whole episode where we talked about dating with intention. And every time you could have just said intention, you said intentionality. And so you could just say comfort and you said comfortability. Like you just love to add a little something.
Also, instead of familiar, I say familiarity. And you were like, you don't need to do
and we were talking about this thing and Rayna kept saying, pretty people privilege. And I was like, it's just pretty privilege. Like you love to add on.
Yeah, I think it makes me
I don't care. Like let it fly. But it's just, I want to be succinct. And you're like, Like, how can I make this longer? How can I say more?
And I do think I've become a much better storyteller via this podcast. Like, you listen to old episodes and I'm like, just land the plane, bitch. Like, you would tell this whole story about like what the weather was like that day. But it's just so funny because I didn't know this was necessarily a thing in my life. And you're like, yeah, you do that all the time. Literally do it all the time.
Intentionality is the most. I'm just like, intention, just say intention. No, but it's like, it's cute. It's one of your quirks.
Thank you.
But this, you guys are just going back and forth. You have this thing, this word I can't find. I guess I'm not that great at words. And I see it happening.
Yeah. Well, I don't use dating apps, so that's how I'm going to find.
Except TaskRabbit.
Yeah, well, they're very hot here.
Okay, let's do a quick break. We'll get right back into it. Okay, well, you want to get someone into your bed. You want to have comfortable bedding. Buffy makes award-winning bedding that is soft on you and soft on the earth. We're obsessed. I just did my whole laundry last night. All my sheets, my duvet cover, all the things. So that's the best sleep you'll ever get is right out of the dryer, clean sheets, duvet. And I have the Buffy comforter as well. I have the Buffy Cloud comforter. They also have the Buffy Breeze. And we're just obsessed. You can also get the Breeze sheet set. This is going to be soft and cool, gentle on your skin, made to last. And then that Breeze comforter is going to keep you cool as well. So we're coming into summer. A lot of you guys are hot sleepers. I know I am. And it's filled with eucalyptus fibers instead of polyester or down, which polyester and down are the two things that heat you up in the middle of the night. So those are the things that are really going to have you wake up in a sweat. And so they don't use that. It doesn't retain heat. Ideal for hot sleepers, summer climates, or partners who sleep at different temperatures, but it's also really cozy and substantial. Like, I don't want to sleep with like a thin blanket on top of me. So I love the Breeze as well as the Cloud, but we're really into the Breeze for summer. It's an Architectural Digest 2022 Clever Award winner. And again, everything is really great for the planet and your skin, dyed using natural skin-safe botanical dyes. And it's hypoallergenic, of course. So we love everything about it. I mean, I used to really go off on those soft hemp linen sheets, but now I've just really gotten into the Breeze sheets. Whatever you want, they're all incredible. And I do all white personally. People probably wonder how I do that with a black dog. It's not easy. It's a challenge every day, but I'm willing to sign up because I love white bedding. But they have so many different colors and you can really make your bedroom pop too with some of their fun colors.
Yes, I am beyond obsessed. I have the comforter, I have the duvet cover, I have the sheets, and I will not use anything else.
Yeah. Everything they have is incredible. And they have a 7-night free trial. So you can experience Buffy before committing, shipping free. Customers also enjoy a 100-night free returns policy. So for $20 off your Buffy order, visit buffy.co and enter GGE. That's buffy.co, promo code GGE for $20 off.
Okay. And we mentioned Gemini season. You guys are going to start traveling. It's travel season. We cannot recommend Babbel enough for your travel. If you just want to learn a little bit of a language before you go somewhere, it makes the trip so much easier, so much better. People are nicer to you. It's easier to get things. Check out Babbel. They make learning a language so easy. You only need 10 minutes to complete a lesson. You can start having real life conversations in as little as 3 weeks. They've expertly crafted lessons that are built around real life so you can learn to have practical conversations when you travel about relationships, business, the check, even more. It was created by over 150 language experts and voiced by real native speakers so that you can really get a feel for the dialect and the accent. And their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective. And with Babbel, you can choose from 14 different languages. So tons to choose from. And there are so many ways to learn. So in addition to the lessons, you can access podcasts, games, videos, stories, and even live classes. Plus, it comes with a 20-day money-back guarantee. You can start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. Right now, get up to 55% off your subscription when you go to babbel.com/GGE. That's babbel.com/GGE for up to 55% off your subscription. Babbel, language for life. Oh, I love that so much. We traveled all over last year. It's so nice to just know a little bit of the language.
It's just so easy and fun. Okay, so I wanted to mention this episode today. We already had the interview, which was so incredible. And Rayna and I both read Marcia's book this weekend and just felt so affected by it. So we're talking about why women freeze their eggs and the disparity with women and men dating these days and all these things. And it speaks to us so much as women in our late 30s. You know, we don't want children. And I feel lucky that I know that. That's not weighing on me every day. And there's no one I feel for more than my girlfriends who are dealing with this and who want to be a mother so badly and, you know, are having trouble conceiving, but also just don't have a partner or a partner that's willing to commit to them and start a family. And so I can't recommend this book enough. I mean, you really need to be kind of ready for it if you're really really struggling with this. I don't know if it would, I think it would help no matter what because it's so validating. But I think a lot about this and partnership too. For me, I don't want children, so I love the conversation, but that's not applicable to me is this egg freezing discussion. So for me, I'm so interested in all the other stuff, like the women having trouble finding men, on their level, up to their standards, men that just want to commit, that aren't Peter Pans or fuckboys or all this stuff. And I do want to find somebody. I've made that very clear, but I also think a lot of times what people want in life is like a partner to share their life with. And I feel like I'm like going to get emotional, but I feel like that we have that in each other. And like, it doesn't mean I don't want a man, it doesn't mean that I don't want sex, intimacy and all this stuff. But like, we really have like shared our lives together. We've traveled the world together. Our families are part of each other's lives. Like we spend holidays together and we're like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's like, I think people just want that a lot, and I make fun of people that say, I'm just looking for my best friend. I'm like, ew, why don't you have a best friend? But like, people want what we have. And they also want, a partner to a lot of times have a child with, start a family with, have sex with. But when it comes to like a life partner, like I do feel like I've like found that. And I think about that a lot.
You want a hug? We've been hugging a lot because she's off birth control.
This is my off birth control. But I don't feel that void at all of like a person who has my back. And it's like this perfect setup. We have these healthy boundaries. We don't live together, but we do all the things. Like you see Rayna and I in the airport, in a restaurant, we're the partnership you want to be. We really do have that. And so again, it's not that it's in place of a man that I have a sexual intimate relationship with, but it just makes it a lot easier to like move through life. And I guess I say that. And when people don't have anything like that at all, I understand the yearning for it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. That was really nice. And it reminds me of that video that went viral of the two girls that are just each other's life partners and their friends. And I do think that like this book resonated with me, not because I want children, but because so many women are like, what is wrong with me? Where is he? I did all the things. Yeah. I did the job and the career and the money and I'm funny and I'm hot and I work out and I have all the things. Like, where is he? Mm-hmm. And it's just like, this book really resonated with me because it explains like why he isn't there necessarily. And like problems that men are facing, problems that women in this demographic are facing. And I like the encouragement that you can find partnership and friendship because some people are never going to find somebody. And this is what we said since day one. You just have to like create a life you're excited about. And, I have all these plans this summer. I would love to have a boyfriend on the boat with me for my birthday. It was so fun a couple years ago having Kane with me and like having meet all my friends and like dance with everybody. And that was like really nice and special for me. But like, I can do those things with or without the partner. I can pay for it. I can build out the guest list. I can coordinate it. Tessa was very helpful, but I can do it without that. And I'm proud of that,
Yeah.
So thank you for what you said. That was really nice. I feel like I have a partner in life too.
Yeah. Like that's not what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, it's not that. I'm not lacking that, really. It's kind of like there's other stuff that we can't provide for each other.
I want somebody that has to hang out with me all the time. I love attention. I love a phone call every single day. I just want so many phone calls. I want so much phone sex. I want so much sex.
I know. I was just talking about this guy that I've been talking to, and you were like, "Have you talked on the phone yet?" Like you were so boned up to hear about like phone conversations.
I love talking on the phone. No one loves it more than me.
We'll talk on the phone. We've just been texting a lot.
And also, before we move on, we want to direct you to 2 other episodes that we've done. So we do mention John Berger quite a few times in the episode. He wrote a book called Datanomics, and we did an episode with him called "Where Are All the Decent Men?" and that was January 11th, 2021, about sort of the dating disparity between men and women.
And then his follow-up book. So Datanomics was his first book in 2015. I wonder how much the geographic landscape has changed post-COVID also. So just keep in mind that was written 8 years ago at this point. And then Make Your Move, I just love. That's his follow-up book. And I love that one. And that's a really great tangible advice. Here's actionable items you can do. Actionable. I didn't have to say actionable. I could have said action. Here's action items you can do.
Actionable felt better though, didn't it? Just be honest.
Actionable things or action items that you can do rather than just move, and that was kind of why he wrote it. I love that he was like, I wrote this book about like how shitty it is to live in certain cities for women and then didn't really follow up with enough but here's what you can do if you're not wanting to move. And so the 2 books together I love is like a little package deal. Again, John Berger, he comes up with this episode. So we just want to give all the backstory there.
Yeah. And if you guys want to listen, we talk about freezing your eggs, but if you want to hear a firsthand experience of somebody actually freezing them, Marcia talks a lot about it in her book, but we did an episode called Spilling the Fertility Tea on August 19th, 2019 with our friend Meryl, and she talks about her experience freezing her eggs. So if you want to hear hear that story. I think it's the second part of that episode.
Yeah, she's towards the end of that episode, and she spoke about it so eloquently, and so
enjoy the episode, you guys. And then, so I finally have something in my life that's really important to me. I want to talk about it. We've been together for a week, and that is my new car. And I know that I mentioned it last week. So I got a Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit. I love it so much. I think about it so often, and I'm so protective over it because I've never owned a car. I've never owned anything. I finally understand what it's like to have a child or a pet. I finally understand what it's like to love something more than I love myself.
Rayna, it's those massage seats. I cannot believe you, bitch, of all people, have massage chairs in your car. Your secret massage life has now transferred itself into the car.
I didn't even know. So I went to pick up the car, and the guy was just like, do you want me to show you around the car? And I was like, I'm trying to fucking go. And he was like, let me just show you some things. And he's like, the seats have massagers. And I was like, come again?
They feel amazing. I rode it the other night.
Yes.
Kate was in the back seat, so jealous. She's like, you bitches are both getting massages up there.
Waterfall massages, passenger seat and driver's seat.
Ugh.
It's so nice. I am so excited about this. I really mulled over it for a long time. You knew exactly what you wanted, but this is my first purchase. I went and drove everything from a Bronco to a Range Rover. I did the whole range. I did the BMW. I did everything. And I love this car so much. Jeep should just cut me a check because I'm going to hype them so hard. But I do love this so much. I clean it constantly. There's a little poop near it. And I was like, this can't be here. I think about where I park now. I love it.
I know. I'm almost it's wearing off, but I felt like kind of a psycho the first month, and it's just covered in pollen and shit, and I'm pissed off, and I'm just out there. I bought a leaf blower to get up under the windshield.
Of course, I understand.
And now I'm relaxing a little bit.
Okay, maybe I'll relax and
you got to get your window bashed in, and then it'll just make you not care about the other stuff as much. I'll do it for you. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Well, it was really exciting for me. And you've had your car for a while, and it took me a while because you knew exactly what you wanted. But I'm going to be really anal retentive about it. I mean, you know how about my house. So I can only imagine how anal I'm going to be about the interior of this car.
Azul, you're not going to be allowed in there.
Yeah.
You can't be in there.
Listen, but he comes in the house. Okay?
Yeah, he's in the house
I'm making strides. My anal retention. So that's what's up with me. I got 3 new tattoos this week.
Yes.
I got one on my arm that I love, and it's in Hebrew, and it says, eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die.
Is that also Dave Matthews?
Yes.
Right, Tessa?
It is.
It just came to me when you said it. I was like, is that Dave Matthews?
It's funny you said that. So I went back and forth with my friend Jackie about this, and she goes, that's Dave Matthews. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's the Torah. And she goes, but Dave Matthews also. And I was like, the Torah said it first. And she's like, Dave said it first.
Rayna, you have a Dave Matthews Band tattoo.
It's from the Torah.
I am so dead. I'm telling everybody.
It's so funny.
That is so funny. You have Dave Matthews quote on your arm. I'm so dead.
I can't. I didn't think you were a Dave Matthews stan.
I'm not a stan. We all listened to it back then. I feel like I still know the words of so many songs, and that just came to me. You said it the other day, and I was like, where do I know that
Dave
from?
Matthews. I actually was not going to volunteer that information to you because it's already been brought to my attention. I like it. It's a good quote. I'm pretty sure it was in the Torah first. If it's not, don't tell me.
They took it from Dave. No. And what else?
It means life is short. I got my second evil eye tattoo because I'm woo now. I live in California. And then I got a candy heart that says XOXO, which I'm probably going to build that out and add more. I was trying to remember where I saw a candy heart that said bite me, and Kelsey Dara, who is our former guest, had one that said bite me.
As a tattoo?
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, anyways, I'm covered in them. I love it. Makes me very happy.
Yay.
That's all.
One thing I just wanted to say, because I hyped this so much, was the Bama Rush documentary on Max. Just kidding. I'm calling it HBO Max until the day I die.
I'm with you. I'm not ready to accept that that's over.
HBO doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. It's been 10 different things in the last year. It was HBO Now, HBO Go, HBO Max.
Oh my God, that's
and
so
now it's just Max, and you have to download a new app every time. They are just...
And I'm stealing someone's HBO, and I have to re-log in, and I can't do it.
So I put this on my Instagram story, but I just wanted to say, I mean, this Bama Rush doc, people thought this was happening back when Bama Rush was actually happening back in the late summer, early fall. And I hated it. Did you watch it?
I turned it off. I just couldn't get through it. I mean, I watched the first 40 minutes.
I just feel like it was such a missed opportunity to interview people that actually had more insight, more tea. The craziest thing to me was that the director it was about her experience with having alopecia, which is, I'm not minimizing her struggle, but it felt really misaligned with the Bama rush. Like, I understand her correlation, but then it turned into, it was a lot about that. I mean, this was all Twitter was saying, and I'm not making fun of it at all. It's just like, make a documentary about alopecia.
It just was an odd choice. I mean, I watch every documentary. You asked me if I've ever seen the documentary and flip it on themselves. The documentary maker.
The director.
The director. Flip it on themselves. And I've only seen it in the Jinx when Robert Durst admits on his mic to murdering people. That's the only time I've seen the director step in.
Yeah. You're like, was this like a weird vanity project? Like, what happened here? Like, there was one tweet. I mean, I was posting like a lot of the tweets, but
I would have enjoyed more. And again, I turned it off, but you verified this was the case. I would have liked more people that have come out of the system that were like adults that could give perspective on it.
People who have quit. Jenny was like, why wouldn't you interview girls who would quit their sorority?
Totally.
You know, like, I would talk about sororities all day. I quit my sorority. I mean, I wasn't in the machine at Bama, but like, it was really anticlimactic. Like, I really feel like we were Bama-boozled, would you say?
Oh, girl.
Someone else DM'd me. That's not an original joke. Because I said bamboozled and someone wrote, don't you mean Bama-boozled? But this one tweet said, things I thought the Bama Rush documentary was going to be about. Bama Rush. Things the Bama Rush documentary is actually about. Alopecia, the Bama Rush documentary, the Bama Rush documentary director. Like, so much of it is about just like making the documentary. I felt like the trailer was way more thrilling than the actual documentary. And it was so much about this director's experience and her trauma dealing with girls growing up and not feeling accepted. And there's so much else that could have been done with that documentary. I understand they couldn't get in the houses during Rush. We didn't need that. We still could have had so much more from like ex-members. Like, they chose a lot of girls that were rushing that I felt were pretty unstable. Like, it was almost a little painful. There was one girl I was like, I don't think this girl should be shooting a show. You know, like, I felt her pain. And anyway, I hyped it so much during Bama Rush talk and all this. And we mentioned it last week. And I just got to say, like, ugh, not great.
I would have appreciated the perspective of somebody who's really gone through it. Not that like women that are 19 can't be intelligent and open-minded and understand what's going on here, but you can't as well as a 30-year-old that went through it, that looks back on their experiences and how it formed them, or somebody that quit. Like, I would have loved to hear from those people more.
Right. Like, when they said that the girls were going in the houses, I was like, that's probably not happening. That's probably a rumor. So you're not getting a lot from the girls that are rushing. Mm-hmm. It should have been, yes, a mix at least of past members. Like, it was a real bummer and a real missed opportunity for what could have been a great documentary. So,
I'm sorry you were robbed of this. I'm really part of the Southern college sorority culture, and so I wanted more for you.
Well, I'm back on All American. So season 5 is now on Netflix, even though I bought it all on Apple TV a couple weeks before. But season 5 of All American, you guys know I'm obsessed with this show. It just dominated my life for months. Season 5, I'm just not going to spoil it. Like, if you know, you probably already know, but something so awful happens I was not prepared for. I was sobbing in the middle of the day. Just not okay. Soul crushing. Can't stop talking about it to anyone who will listen. Like, didn't see it coming, and it fucked me up. I'll leave it at that. You should enjoy it. Season 5, All American. Get into it.
I mean, it is really tough when you like stick with a show for so long and then you just get like devastated by it. I mean, Succession was one of my favorite shows. Really, I think it's one of the best shows of all time. I think it's so brilliantly written. I didn't love the ending. So spoilers ahead, but they do lose the company. Okay. The siblings, they all just sort of like go to their own demise, I guess. But I don't know how else it could have ended. It just sort of ended. I thought Kendall would have a worse ending than just sort of like sitting on a bench staring at the water. I don't know if we're ever like so happy with how anything ends.
Finales,
like,
yeah.
I didn't like the ending of The Sopranos or Mad Men, but I don't know like what else I would have wanted. It's just a bummer when something ends. You just want more.
Yeah.
So it was fine. And I'm excited to get into The Ultimatum. It's all queer couples this season 2, and Tessa says it's great. So
yes,
we're excited to get into that.
The Ultimatum. Okay, we are just going to talk about our remaining partners, and we are going to get into this fantastic episode with our guest. Okay, I'm going to talk about AG1. Listen, I will say that I have never felt healthier. I've said this before. I'm back to having my elite immune system, and I really do think this is part of it, and that is the main reason why I wanted to start taking Athletic Greens AG1 is just for an optimized immune system, and you really just get a lot of vitamins and the minerals that you need in one shot. It's like powder in a glass of water, but you really just can take it in the morning and it just goes you throughout the day and you cover your nutritional basis. So Athletic Greens is offering you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase when you go to athleticgreens.com/GGE. So I'm so obsessed with this. I've turned so many friends and family onto it, and now they're super into it too. I just like when I go to someone's house and I see it and I'm like, Code GG, didn't you? Like, we've really just turned so many people onto it. And it's so easy to bring on the road with us when we go. So I have like the big package at my home with the scooper and whatnot, but then the little travel packs are so great to bring on the road. So you really never have to miss a day. You can keep your routine going. And it really is just the scoop or the travel pack of AG1 into a glass of cold water, and you're absorbing 75 high quality minerals, vitamins, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. And it's going to be great for your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, all the things. And it's just this great micro habit that makes it easy to absorb these nutrients and help you feel better, live a healthier life. So we can't recommend it enough. And again, your subscription is going to come with a year's supply of vitamin D, which is so important. So right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/GGE. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/GGE to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
And last but not least, HelloFresh, which is going to make your summer so much easier because I know that we're out in these streets more, we're traveling more, we just want something easy for dinner, lunch, snacks, all the meals, and HelloFresh has you covered. You can go to hellofresh.com/GGE16 and use the code GGE16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. I am loving their summer menu. I'm loving how easy they make it. Everything arrives pre-portioned, great, easy recipe card to follow. Again, I think we're just like doing more in the summer. So if you want to entertain, you want to have friends over, you want to cook like a date night meal, they make it really, really simple. They have tons of new snacks, meals to add to your weekly order. They have 40 recipes to choose from weekly. So if you're in just like a recipe rut, tons and tons of stuff to choose from. They have great stuff for entertaining. So right now they have their bratwurst board with caramelized onions, Dijonnaise slaw, and pineapple relish. I mean, you'll look like a star.
Oh my God.
They have snack board.
I'm going to bring that on your birthday boat.
I know.
I brought the bratwurst board, you guys.
It's going to be catered, Ashley. They have a snack
Well, they better
board.
do a bratwurst board.
Sounds pretty good.
That's so on
I
brand
was going
for
to send
you.
you the menu. You can help pick it.
Meat board. Yeah. Okay.
They have a snack board with pretzel bites, spiced bar nuts, and hot honey peach jam. And then, of course, just free meals. They have caramelized onion meatloaf sandwiches, roasted chickpea Caesar salads, pork sausage, cavatappi, bolognese. Really threw a lot at me.
But you can switch out and do turkey sausage a lot of times. So I don't do pork. I don't do it in restaurants. I don't do it. So anything like that, which I love that this has happened like, in the last year or two where you can switch that protein. Because I want some of those dishes, but I don't want the pork. And so I always do like beef. I love their beef or turkey.
Yes. So they're very easy to maneuver and
Customize.
change things. If you need to skip a week, if you need to send the food to a different address, maybe you're traveling, you can do that too. And if you just want to like get in and get out, they have quick and easy meals that are ready in 15 minutes or less. So tons to choose from. And we'll give you guys a great discount. You can go to hellofresh.com/GGE16 and use the code GGE16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping.
Okay.
We are really excited to welcome our guest today. She is a professor of anthropology and international affairs at Yale University and the author of the new book, Motherhood on Ice, The Mating Gap and Why Women Freeze Their Eggs, which Ashley and I spent the whole day reading yesterday.
It's just sitting heavy with me in a good way. We've spent our whole day yesterday reading this book.
Yeah, we were in bed with this book. So please welcome to the show today's guest, Marcia Inhorn.
I am so happy to be here with both of you. Thanks for inviting me.
We're so happy. And you came to us through one of our favorite guests of all time, John Berger, who we had on the show as well.
Yeah, John Berger has been so influential because his book, Datanomics, really provided a core of the argument for what I'm calling the mating gap in my own book.
So when did you start this research and start like writing this book, I guess?
Right. So I'm an anthropologist. I'm a medical anthropologist, and I've been working my whole career on assisted reproductive technologies, starting with IVF and then, these evolving technologies. And really what happened is that in the year 2012, the American Society for Reproductive Medicine lifted the experimental label on this new assisted reproductive technology called egg freezing. And so there had been sperm freezing since the 1960s. There had been embryo freezing since the 1980s with the beginning of IVF. But it was really technically difficult to figure out how to freeze human eggs because they're the largest cell in the body and they're watery. And so finally, a new technique called oocyte vitrification came into being in the aughts, and it allowed human eggs to be frozen. And so at the biological age at which you are, if you're 30 years old and you freeze your eggs, they stay your 30-year-old eggs, and you can use them 10 years on at age 40, and you're using your younger, presumably higher quality eggs. So it's a pretty revolutionary technology. It was actually really needed in the beginning for young women with reproductive problems, including cancer, women who were going to be going through chemotherapy, which has the potential to really damage one's fertility. And so there's a whole sort of subcategory of women who are doing medical egg freezing. But soon, healthy women without medical problems actually began requesting egg freezing, when it came into being. And so a whole new sort of use for the technology was seen. It's called non-medical egg freezing, what I sometimes call elective egg freezing. It took off by the year 2013, a year after the experimental label was lifted. There were already 5,000 cycles that had been performed in the US. It's been doubling at a very, rapid rate. Women are really, I'm going to say, clamoring to this technology. And during the COVID period, when women were having difficulties connecting with men, there was a huge surge in demand for egg freezing. So it is a technology that's really taken off in the United States and increasingly all around the world.
Wow. And you interviewed 150 people for this. So that makes it the largest study in the world ever done. Will you tell us?
Yeah, the largest anthropological study, where I did interview 150 women who had completed egg freezing. They had done at least one cycle of egg freezing, sometimes more, up to 4 cycles of egg freezing to get a good number of eggs. But 36 of those women were doing egg freezing for medical reasons, mostly young women with cancer. And then 114 of the women were, healthy women. And their reasons were very, very different. And, I did very in-depth interviews with them. I asked a few sort of demographic questions to sort of see what the patterns were in age, education, and so on. And, soon discovered the pattern, the repeating pattern about women, freezing their eggs because of partnership problems, which really goes against the sort of assumptions about why women freeze their eggs.
Okay. I was just curious because we mentioned John Berger and you came to us through him, his book came out in 2015. And were you already working on this? And was that book kind of like also this too moment?
Yeah. So right. I wrote a grant proposal probably in the year 2013, got funded by the U.S. National Science Foundation. So they were the funders of my study, started interviewing women in 2014. And so it was for me a kind of a project going over this past decade. John's book came out in 2015 and I saw it and I thought, oh my gosh, that is an issue that relates to my book, that there's this growing educational disparity between men and women. And we can talk more about it, but I think it's one of the underlying problems creating a kind of mating gap for educated women in our country. So I met John actually. He actually co-authored one paper with me. So he's been an inspiration, let's put it that way. And his book is really an important book, I think, for America about what's going on, a difference between men and women going into higher education.
Well, we'll get into sort of the mating issues, but let's talk about, you mentioned a few minutes ago, what the misconceptions are of who is freezing their eggs and what the actuality is of what the demographic of people that are freezing them. I thought it was really interesting you talking about what people think the makeup of this group looks like.
Yeah, so there's been this assumption from the get-go when egg freezing came into existence and the media started covering it and clinical articles started coming out about it, not based really on women's lives or their stories, but just this assumption that, now women can freeze their eggs. And so they're going to purposefully delay, postpone, defer their fertility, their childbearing for the purposes of education and career planning. So you have all of this sort of discourse about career planning, that this is going to be young women in their 20s, putting their eggs on ice so that they can climb the corporate ladder, or women who are on the corporate ladder, selfishly driven, ambitious career women who are going to freeze their eggs so that they can climb higher. Somehow that women are intentionally freezing their eggs now so that 10 years on they can have children. And that misconception, I'm going to say, has unfortunately been really re-emphasized by the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. They prefer to call egg freezing planned oocyte cryopreservation, as if women doing this are very carefully planning their future fertility, putting their fertility on hold. And that is not at all what I found in my study. My study shows that this is not about career planning for most women. This is a completely different issue that really has not gotten the attention that it deserves, that women are really having problems finding committed reproductive partners to have children with them. And it's really, there were very few women in my study who were intentionally freezing their eggs so that they could, wait for 10 years because they had some career ambitions they were trying to fulfill.
I have chills. And also, by the way, if that were the reason, it wouldn't matter. And that would be fine too.
It wouldn't.
But clearly it has a negative spin on it that women are like career hungry and like putting this off what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's enraging that that's the spin that's been put on it, because you talk to any woman we know, which is significant, tons. And it's, like you said in the book, I folded so many pages because there was just so many different quotes and things I wanted to like remember and save. But these women can handle it with their career. They're ready to have children. They don't have the partner to have the children with. This is like, they're in the career. They know they can handle all of it. They want children. The partner's not there. That's why the egg freezing happens, or we can get into breakups and divorces and things like that. Post romance or end of romance is what you called it. But yeah, the misconception is frustrating.
Also, the cost is extremely high. So this is not people that have no money. These are people that have climbed the corporate ladder.
Yeah, no, it's really important. So you're getting at the heart of the issue here. So yeah, it's a very expensive, and I'm going to say a difficult technology. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
It costs in the US. The US is the most expensive place in the world to do any kind of assisted reproduction. But egg freezing, I found minimally, to do one cycle of egg freezing is minimally $10,000 US. And for many women, because they have to buy hormonal medications to go along with it, and you have to self-inject those hormonal medications. If you don't have a partner, especially, the medications are expensive. So many women spend up to $20,000 on a single cycle of egg freeze. It's very expensive. And then you have to pay annual storage fees for the eggs that you've frozen. And that can cost anywhere from $500 to $1,500 annually. And then if you did go back to thaw or rewarm your frozen eggs and try to fertilize them, that is on average about $6,000 US. It is a very expensive proposition. And it's logistically complicated. It involves self-injection, which is difficult for many women. Mm-hmm. Logistically, you have to have somebody to accompany you on the day of egg retrieval. And so it's disruptive of women, who are professionals. And getting back to your point about, the women doing this, these are not young women in their 20s doing this. The average age of the women that I interviewed who had frozen their eggs electively, at the time of egg freezing, they were already 36.6 years of age, almost 37 years of age. And so these were highly educated, high earning women who could afford the egg freezing. Almost, 90% of them had paid for it completely by themselves. But they said, look, I've been looking for a partner ever since my early 20s. I've been looking all along as I was getting educated and developing my career, looking for somebody to be in my journey with me, toward partnership, pregnancy, and parenthood, sort of the 3 Ps. Mm-hmm. And the mystery to me is why I've ended up here at age 35 or 36 without a partner. Many women were, single, but also mystified. Like, why me? What happened to me? This was not my plan.
Yeah. When I went, they told me it was 10,000, but when they started adding in all the things, my out cost was like 18,000. So
it's just expensive. And, doing the egg freezing, we could just call it half of an IVF cycle. You're doing sort of the first half of the IVF cycle, and then to go back and to use the eggs. And if you are going to use donor sperm, which is something we should talk about, but, you've got sperm and you have to fertilize, you have to thaw the eggs, have them fertilized. Hopefully some of them will turn into embryos. And that part is expensive too. So this is a very costly proposition.
I also want to clarify I didn't go through the process. I had an initial checkup, but I did not freeze eggs.
I'm reading the stories about these women, and you interview them and you use their exact words, as if you were talking to them in the book. So you really feel like you get to know them and their stories. And these women are not undateable. They're successful, attractive, cool women, like so many women that can't really figure out, nor can any of their friends, nor can conversely they figure out why they have so many friends that are in the same boat. This is just an ongoing problem. We see it with our most brilliant, beautiful, interesting, cool, stable, friends.
And I feel emotional when you say this why me problem. And I read it in the book as well, because I look at it and I think like these women are the most successful, intelligent, highly educated, killing it in all other aspects of their lives. They make money. And it's like, I hate that they would look at themselves and say, what's wrong with me? Because like there's so many things that are right about you that you've accomplished that are positive and amazing.
That was the sad part for me because, oh my gosh, I completely agree with you. I'm going to say overall, the women I interviewed, and they were from many different backgrounds, I have to say. It was a racially, ethnically, and religiously diverse group of women, but they were all educated. I mean, minimally, they had a BA. 20% stopped at the BA level, but most went on to master's degrees and MDs, PhDs, JDs. I mean, they were a very educated and successful group of women, beautiful, in most cases, so eloquent, fun to talk to. And these stories just came pouring out. Often after I asked a few basic demographic questions, I'd say, well, tell me your egg freezing story. And it would come pouring out. And it was about sort of the heartbreak, really, of, not being able to find a partner, looking for a partner, or being in a partnership that ended. And women saying, I don't know why. I never imagined myself being in this situation. It must be something I did wrong. I was too picky. I wasn't willing to settle for my college boyfriend, even though I didn't love him. Oh, I must be, looking for the wrong kind of man. Just all of this sort of self-reflection and self-blame. And in fact, when this isn't an issue that's really in women's individual control, I mean, there are some underlying issues going on here that are putting a lot of amazing women in this kind of situation in what I call the egg freezing demographic. They're highly educated, successful professionals. They have money. They are mostly heterosexual. 3 of them were bisexual, but these are heterosexual women who wanted what I call these 3 Ps. They wanted to be partnered. They wanted to have a pregnancy with their own biogenetic eggs. They wanted to use their own eggs to have children. And they wanted to be moms. They wanted parenthood. And they were facing this thing that I ended up calling the mating gap, the lack of eligible, educated, equal partners who were eager to become fathers, ready to be fathers to their children. It was this inability to find men interested in the project of family building, here in America. It was stunning to me because I'm a generation older. I can relate to this from when I was going to school and graduate school. And so many of my friends, had difficulty finding partners or married and divorced. But, we jump forward to your generation. It's like, wow, it hasn't changed that much. What the heck is going on in our country that's causing these gender problems, these sort of partnership problems? So I explore, that. I kind of look at women's laments, and I have some hypotheses about what's going on. I must say, I did not interview men for this study. Somebody needs to be talking to men in America about why they, feel lack of commitment and unreadiness for fatherhood. But I did get women's perspective on what's going on.
Well, we know a few men that are trying their best. So there's some out there that are trying to do the work and talk to these guys, but clearly it's not enough. And it is an issue. And maybe you even quoted John Berger in this book, and this was probably also your take too, is this starts with the men and like the education gap, and let's start there. But because we can't go in and fix that, let's talk about what the other solutions are. So like ideally we would just fix that.
Yeah. So, once women are educated, and in, many cases, highly educated, they have, 4-year college degree, and often they've gone on for masters and so forth. They're looking for gender equality. Women said, I believe in equality at work and I believe in equality at home. I want somebody who sort of shares my values, is educated, wants to be a partner with me. The gender equality is important for women. But what you have in America, and this is really what John pointed out in his prescient book, that is now getting a lot more attention, this problem, which is that men in the United States are slipping out of higher education. It's been a pretty dramatic fall, while women are just achieving and outperforming, men across the board. It's been happening for decades, but it's really picking up the pace where women are doing really well in higher education in our country and men are not. And so the gap now is wide. In the United States, there are 27% more women in higher education than men. Next year, in 2024, it's estimated that there will be 38% more women in higher education than men. And there was a massive sort of decline in college admission in our country during COVID, during 2021, but 71% of the decline was of men, not of women. And so it's estimated that in the near future, there will be 2 women college graduates for every 1 male college graduate, a 2-to-1 ratio. There are going to be millions more educated women in our country than men. And so it's in that reproductive age range from, say, 22 to 39. There are millions more college educated women than there are college educated men. So if women are looking for that equal partner in terms of wanting somebody who's educated, there just really aren't enough men around. And John Berger called this the massive undersupply, the man deficit of college educated men in this country. So there's a real demographic problem that, got to be fixed over time. But until it's fixed, what are women going to do? And so women, they lamented the fact that they just really couldn't find equal men who were like them, sort of the same caliber of men. And they use this term like, I don't want to settle. I don't want to enter into a desperation marriage just because I want to have a baby. And I've been holding out hope of finding somebody who's sort of equal to me, the sort of soulmate who's equal. But there simply aren't enough of those men out there. So you end up with this surplus, of millions of women who are educated but haven't been able to find that equally educated partner. And that was something that women really talked about. They talked about men of, sort of lesser education, less successful than they were, being very intimidated of them. The I word was a huge word in my study, intimidation. Women would meet guys. Here's a great example. A woman who is very educated and works in a major federal agency in Washington, D.C. She goes out on dates with men, never men who have as much education as she does. A lot of women with education take their educational degrees off their dating profiles so that men won't be intimidated right off the bat. But then you go out on a date with a guy, you tell him you work for some very impressive federal agency. And the guy says, are you kidding? That means you're smarter than I am. There's no way we can date. It was all of this kind of stuff going on. And women saying, I know there must be men out there who want a strong, educated woman. There must be those unicorns. I'm waiting to find my unicorn. But in the meantime, I'm going to put my eggs on ice. I'm going to freeze my eggs while sort of waiting for this imaginary partner to come along.
I want to also jump in, and just because we went down this kind of education road, and it's kind of indicative of a bigger type of equality, I guess. I don't care if someone went to college. I went out with a guy a couple weeks ago. He dropped out of high school at 16. He's impressive and successful and wonderful to talk to, and somebody that I absolutely consider on my level, for lack of a better term. I even told the matchmaker that I met with, it's not on my list. I don't give a fuck, but I want somebody that has a similar life I can go back and forth with, is on my level. It's less about the college and more about the equality, and someone that really you feel like matches you in certain ways and also isn't going to be intimidated by you and be like, oh, you're smarter than me. So it can kind of fall back on the guy as well, because I get kind of wrapped up in this, like, not everyone needs to go to college. I strongly believe that to have a successful life, to follow their ambitions and their passions, I especially think today. So this is just me jumping in to make it clear. I feel it's kind of the bigger picture of, like, not necessarily I need to know, for me personally, that you went to college, that you have this, that you have that. It's like, I just want someone that matches me in certain aspects of life.
I agree with you so much. I myself did that. I'm married now for 32 years. I just celebrated my 32nd anniversary.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. And, with a man, I had finished my PhD and my master's in public health, and I met a man who had not finished college, but I knew he was highly intelligent and kind, and we were attracted to each other, and we ended up getting married and have 2 children. And so I completely agree with you. It's really not about the college degree necessarily. It's about finding somebody you find is a match that loves you, supports you, is not intimidated by you, wants to be with you, and shares your values. And if those values include having children, those need to be expressed, to the person. And you need to know that that person is willing to do that with you. And that's exactly what I did. In John Berger's book, he calls this mixed collar mating, people who might be white collar having relationships with people who are traditionally in our society called blue collar, men who are maybe not educated, but might be very good partners. And I do have some examples in my book of those kinds of successful relationships. In a way, at the end of the book, I really argue to women, you need to open your eyes and expand your range of people to potentially be with, because there simply are not going to be enough men with college degrees, and especially men with higher than college degrees. There simply aren't enough of them. So you may have to rethink who you're interested in.
I totally agree. And I always just say, I just want somebody who I'm inspired by how they live their life. With Ashley, I don't care if somebody graduated college. My last boyfriend didn't. The person I was engaged to didn't go to college. Like, I don't really care. To me, the problem is this extreme acceleration in the gap between women being so much more successful career-wise, making more money, having so much going on for themselves, that men don't build friendships as they get older. And women are doing all these things so that they're so interesting by the time that they reach these ages. And it's hard to find a partner that can slide in there. And women our whole lives have been taught to find a man who's smarter than you, richer than you, more successful than you. That's what we've always sought out. Men have never been taught to seek that out. And there's this huge shift, and men have to like catch up almost to so many years of breeding.
Yeah, I completely agree with you too, because, in anthropology, we have these words. I like them. We have a term called hypergamy, which is marrying up, which is exactly what you've just defined. Women are supposed to engage in hypergamy, find somebody slightly older, with slightly more education, makes more money, more successful, and so on. And men have been sort of socialized to engage in hypogamy, marrying down, somebody slightly younger, slightly less educated, somebody younger because he wants a fertile person, right? And so these are traditional values. You find them in society. And I think, they still hold to some degree. And now you have these women, like the women in my study, who are extremely highly educated. I mean, they're really, in a way, at the sort of top of any kind of hierarchy. I mean, high education, successful professionals making a lot of money. And men would have to look up to them. Men would have to engage in hypergamy to be with these women. It reverses what they've been socialized to do. And similarly, women, they will have to reverse what they've been socialized to do, which is to marry up. They might have to look down and engage in hypogamy. So these are gender norms. These are social norms that really have to be unseated, if you will, to sort of rethink gender relations in our society. And I should add, this is not just an American issue. This issue is now all over the world. In 60% of the world's nations, women are outperforming men educationally. The same kind of disparities are found in the UK, in Canada, all over Western Europe, all over Scandinavia. And so, not surprisingly, egg freezing as a kind of stopgap solution is taking off all over the world. So what we're describing for the US today in our conversation is an issue found really in many other countries.
Wow. Well, I'm glad we also made that clear. One thing that really hit me in the chest, and I folded this page as well, was a lot of the women you spoke to had really great parents. And I always joke that my daddy issue is my dad's just too perfect and nobody can live up to him. But there was this one line, and you said this one woman's story, and I think a lot of the women's story was this supportive father over here, this great man, that shows up and you look up to him. And then this mom that has also told you, be independent, and live a life you're proud of. And those two things together made it really difficult. That really struck a chord with me, because I do have this amazing father and then a mom who has her own independence and her own life, and they're still married. They'll be married for 45 years this August, but they've both kind of created this independence, and she's instilled that in me. And so those things together, I'm like, you're fucked.
I know. I thought it was like Ashley and I are both fucked. I mean, I have this amazing father who's so kind and wonderful. He thinks that the sun shines out of my ass. And I have a mom.
Yeah, your mom. My mom. More than my mom.
My mom. Well, my mom doesn't like me, but like my dad does. But, my mom was a single mother starting from the time I was 4 years old, and told me growing up, always have a career in education. So God forbid a man leaves you. You can support yourself. We were both raised by these amazing parents. So I thought about you too. Your dad's too good.
Yeah, I think that those messages, exactly what your mom's and the way you felt about your dad's, so many women, felt the same way. Many women, to talk about their dads, it's like, well, if I could find a man 10% of my father, I think I'd be lucky. My father was remarkable. He supported me in so many different ways. And I have a whole chapter in my book about who supports women when they're going through egg freezing. And I really wanted to make sure that it was known that men can be incredibly supportive of women, mostly dads, right? Dads who supported their daughters going through this, often offered them money to pay for the egg freezing, which most women didn't take from their parents, but their dads were there for them. The dads parents, said, if this is what you need to do, I'll support you. But that their dads had just been supportive through life, right? And then also sometimes brothers and sometimes male friends, ex-partners actually helped women go through the egg freezing process. But women, often upheld their own fathers as being great role models for them. They wanted to find men who were similar to their dads and supportive in those ways. And then similarly, moms, a lot of moms, I'm going to say, were raised during the period of kind of second wave feminism to say to their daughters, look at, you can have a career. You can be equal in every way to men out there. You can have a good career. And yes, you need to have a career. You need to be able to support yourself. I think many women of your generation have imbibed those values from their moms. And so that was very important to many women, that their mothers had told them to follow their passions, have a good career, be a professional. And so women have done this. And so now, I don't want to say those women are fucked, but
we really knew she was about to,
I knew she was about to say fuck. I could feel it coming up.
But, yeah. So who are you going to find? Who's going to be as good as your dad? Who's going to be as successful as you? So, it's really true. The women that I interviewed, they were in their mid to late 30s, their early 40s by the time they got around to egg freezing. And that's been shown in almost all the other studies around the world, that women are doing it sort of in this end of the reproductive lifespan, because they've been looking for somebody all along to be a good, stable, committed reproductive partner to them. And they couldn't find that person. It's like, what am I going to do? And so egg freezing has come along. And I think increasingly women are talking about it with their girlfriends. I found many women, in fact, had girlfriend groups that were sometimes doing it together. One friend would start, be the first one, and then her friends would follow. And so it's becoming a phenomenon for this particular demographic of women in their mid to late 30s who didn't find the partner. They're going ahead and freezing their eggs now.
I also want to say my mom said when she met my dad, he was a real fuckboy, womanizer, asshole.
I was just going to say, my grandmother did not think my dad was good enough for my mom. And allegedly he went to college. I guess he did. I think he might have an undergrad degree.
Our moms had to train them and then they became good fathers. It's just, it's not all bad, ladies. You can meet a little asshole and train them.
That was in the 70s or what it's a different time. But we've kind of talked about the mating gap and just the statistics of it all. But then there's this lack of men who even want to have children and want to be committed and
not be terrible.
Yeah. So we kind of wanted to touch on that, but you have an amazing part in the book of the 10 types of men. Yes. And we could just kind of rattle them off, and we don't need to define them all because I think we all know what they mean. But let's put education and salary aside and just talk about what we're dealing with on the other side of the actual men that don't want to commit and have children.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. Women were so wonderful in talking with me, and they had so many interesting things to say. And one of the things that I found is that there are types of men. You had used the term fuckboys, I believe, right, Rayna? But that was
womanizer. Yes.
Well, I didn't get that one particularly from women, but I called it the types of men, women's lexicon. And so they had terms for these different kinds of men. There were alpha males, beta males, feminist men, foreign service men, Peter Pans, and I want to talk about the Peter Pans. That is a California issue.
No. That's everywhere.
That's everywhere.
We travel the world. We tour. It's literally everywhere, but hardcore. Yes, California, Charleston. Yeah. Anyway.
So I'm going to talk about that. But startup men in California, tech men in California, unicorns, and younger men. So they wanted to tell me about the different kinds of men that they would meet out there. And when I started interviewing women, I had not heard the term Peter Pans, but it was absolutely a term that was used over and over, especially by women in California. And, just this notion of men who never grow up. They're like Peter Pan, never want to grow up, want to play around. Often they're men who are educated and have money. And so they wine and dine you, and you could stay with them for a while. But if you're hoping to really nab that guy and have that person as a partner, forget about it. They really have no intention of doing that. And just in general, men's unreadiness, the unready men of the world, men who can sort of think maybe hypothetically, I do want to have children sometime down the road, but I am definitely not ready now. And so women who sometimes did egg freezing with these men supported them through their egg freezing, but wanted to talk then about commitment or using those eggs. No, I'm not ready for that discussion. So many men who were just not ready. 82% of the women in my study froze their eggs because they were single, 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 either just single or they had been coming out of a relationship, a divorce, a broken engagement, a relationship that had ended, but singleness was the problem. And then even among the 18% of women who froze their eggs with a partner, the partnerships were so unstable. Either, they were simply not sure it was going to work, the relationship was too new, they didn't know, or they were in what they thought was a stable relationship, but the man was unready. So men's unreadiness is an issue. What does that really mean? I really appreciate there are people in the world, both men and women, who just don't want to have kids, and that is perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
But if you don't want to have kids, but you're in a relationship with a woman who does want to have kids, in a way, it's not fair to that woman. And so there were these examples of women who are holding on to these men. They loved these men. They were in a relationship. The man was unready. Sometimes there were a couple cases where they actually married and the man said, oh yeah, we'll eventually have kids. And then, they marry. It's like, no, I really don't want to have kids. And it was such a betrayal, if you're going to say you're going to do it and then you back out. But I think I had this really poignant, story in my book. It's sort of the beginning story in the second chapter on the end of romance about a couple I call Lily and Jack. They lived in New York City and they got together when she was 30 and she really loved this man, felt he was the soulmate of her life. She hung in there with him. About 5 years in, it's like, we need to talk about getting engaged, getting married. Like, oh no, he was an academic. I'm trying to get tenure. I'm just not ready, just not ready for that. She hung in for another 5 years. Basically, her entire 30s were with this man. And he kept saying, well, hypothetically, I see myself with children down the road. Finally, it was apparent to her this was just never going to happen, even though she was madly in love with this person. And so she ended it finally. She traveled off by herself, kissed another man, and just realized, I got to hang it up. He's never going to be ready. And so she did. By that point in her early 40s, she did freeze her eggs at great expense. And then she actually used them with donor sperm and was not successful because, frankly, biologically, she had waited too long. And so it was a very sad story.
Yeah.
And she still said, I still love him. Like, what do you do when you're in love with a man who just is not ready?
Ashley and I see this a lot with men that are of age to have children, that are financially stable, that should quote unquote be ready, that have dated women that we really love, that are wonderful, and been with them in long-term partnerships. And I'm talking men that are 35 plus, that traditionally should be stable enough of age to have children, that do stay with women for long periods and say maybe in the future, and they string you along. We find this to be very prevalent. We see this a lot.
That story was like our friend's story to a T. And then let's just not leave out that she went off birth control because she felt like it's time to go off birth control. And then he wouldn't have sex with her for 14 months. And you want to scream like, leave. But she's so in love with him. Like she thinks this is her life soulmate and she still does. I'm like speaking about it like I know her. That story just really gave me chills because we know those women. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so sad that there are women like that. Hers was a very poignant story. And also it was poignant because her father was a Holocaust survivor. She was the only child. That's the end of her lineage in some sense, But this issue of men just feeling not ready and waiting into their late 30s, their 40s, and their 50s. I don't want to give the wrong statistic, but there's a huge percentage of American men in their 40s who are childless. I think it's something like 25% of them. It's a large number. And if you look at Scandinavia and parts of Western Europe, it's the same thing. And also men in their 50s who are not together are childless, although a significant percentage of those men say they still are interested in having children, but they're waiting. They're just pushing back the time. And for men, it's easier because they don't have the ticking biological clock on their shoulders. But actually, we do now know that there are probably some health problems for men waiting. Sperm are not as good in the 40s and 50s. And actually, there may be what we call paternal effects with aging sperm, so we should be concerned about that. But the notion that men just can sort of wait for a very long time and women cannot. And then, older men in their 40s who may eventually decide that they do want to partner with a woman and have children, they're often not looking at women in their late 30s. Often this notion of hypogamy, they'll go for a woman in the late 20s or the early 30s, And so those women who've sort of been waiting, women like Lily, who waited for a guy into her late 30s and early 40s, there's a lot of ageism. There were some really misogynistic
Yeah.
sorts of ageism. The prologue to my book about, men talking about like, oh, would you ever be with a woman who was 40? Talking about women's age in very unflattering and unfavorable kinds of ways that men do when they decide that they finally want to do this. They're not looking for women in their late 30s. They're because like, oh, their fertility is going to be an issue. And even with egg freezing now, women can freeze their eggs. And so it sort of takes this pressure off the dating and having to look at every guy as the baby daddy or the potential baby daddy. But men too, it's like, oh, you froze your eggs, what does that mean? This notion of, oh, she's going to want to have kids quickly and maybe I'm not ready. So somebody really needs to do a big, big study on men, American men, about what is causing them to be so fearful of settling down. Women had their own hypotheses. And actually, one of them was, well, so many people of our age are the children of divorce. And men, when their parents had a very rugged, rocky marriage, and it was really hurtful to the mother, hurtful to the children, they feel very reluctant. Children of divorce are sort of less ready to partner. That was one thesis that women put out there. But also women said, look at in our dad's generation, it was just expected that men partnered and married. That was just a societal expectation. Men did it. It was a goal in their lives that they wanted to fulfill. They wanted to have children. So you look at our fathers, that's what they did. They were expected to do it. They did it wonderfully in many cases. Women said, oh, I loved my dad. But the men of your generation, this current generation of men in their 20s and 30s and maybe 40s and 50s, it's not an expectation. There's no longer that societal pressure in this country to be a partnered man, to be a married man, and a man who wants to have children. So maybe that's what's going on, but it is having detrimental effects on women who do want to be partnered, pregnant, and parents.
I mean, I think it's a tough world out there. I think it's so much more expensive and more difficult to raise a kid. I want nothing to do with having children. So I'm a person that understands that it's not for everybody. And I think there's a lot of men who, and I don't want to say they're floundering, but like we're talking about them making less money, not being as educated. So they are supposed to be these providers, but they don't have their career quite figured out. And then they hit a certain age where there's like, oh, I'm actually never going to make it like I thought I was 10 years ago. And I see this all the time. You have a man in his late 30s. Probably at this point, he knows what he's going to be when he grows up. Like if he's not now, he's not going to be the multimillionaire he dreamed of. And there's a definite sense of anxiety of like, and now I'm supposed to bring a kid into the world and provide for them. And how am I going to support a family? And I'm not excusing it, but I think a lot of it is that. I think uncertainty in their career as the man that's supposed to be a provider and this real crisis of I'm not the man I had planned to be is really settling in. And, it was interesting because this part in the book where you said there's all these men that like just want to have a great career and travel the world and be with their friends and not have kids, but have nieces and nephews that they love and they see all the time. I was like, that's me, but I know it. And I say it date one if I need to, like the problem is them not telling and not knowing. And I'm like, where do we go here? If there is a guy that he's got his career figured out, he is going to be able to provide, he makes plenty of money, he's secure, and he's still waffling. How do we get them to figure it out so they don't waste these women's time? Because that's the most enraging thing. And if you are those men, just date women in their 20s, like stop wasting women in their 30s, late 30s time when you don't know if or when you'll ever be ready.
I mean, I'm smiling. It's terrible. But like everybody we know that's been in these situations are women that I will say have been extremely clear. This is what I want. This is the parameter. I want children. This is a non-negotiable. These are not women that were like waffling. I want to validate people that are like, I've been with people like this for a long time. We've seen the smartest, most open, honest women we know be strung along by partners like this forever. And I do think that the divorce thing is really interesting. I will say I've seen it more and more on dates I've been on recently in the last couple of years, men just saying outright, I don't want kids. I was on a date with somebody last week, actually, that said, my parents divorced. It was really fucking terrible for me. And I'm just not interested in doing that to somebody. It's not
great that you know it.
And yes, you told me date one. I do mention it to people, date one now, just because I think you should date me as though I don't want to have children. I may change my mind, but I want to be honest. I am finding more and more on dates in the last years that men are saying they don't want children. And yeah, somebody used that last week with me, that his life growing up was just sort of traumatic and he just doesn't see it in his cards, essentially.
Yeah, so bringing up these topics of like men and problems and issues that they're facing, I think that's real. There's been a lot of recent media attention and actually some books about men adrift in our society, that men
The men in
are
crisis,
adrift,
all of
a
it. Yeah.
crisis of men and boys,
Mhm.
that boys are having a hard time, not only in education, but in labor markets in this country. And so their aspirations for what they thought they were going to be and the kind of careers they thought they were going to have and the incomes they thought they were going to make, they're just not. So, there are real
Mhm.
problems facing men in our country, and it is then playing out in these various ways. And yes, so many Americans are now the children of divorce. Divorce has happened. It's become something that's acceptable in our society, but it can have long lasting trauma depending on who you are. But this point about like know thyself, so that when you're going out with somebody, you are honest about your intentions. It's really, really important, because you can waste a woman's valuable biological time. And I use this term, I came up with this term, reproductive waithood. Women stuck in a kind of reproductive waithood. They're waiting for this mate who may or may not ever materialize. And so they're in this period of like, well, I've frozen my eggs. It's the thing I can do for myself. It's the one thing that is under my control, to put my eggs on ice and hope that somebody's going to come along. And for some women, it does come along. To sort of point out there are some positives, I had these
Yeah.
stories in my book of women who did find that unicorn or that mate in that period of waithood while they froze their eggs. And there's a sort of great story in one of the later chapters in the book of a woman. She hadn't found anybody. She froze her eggs. She went on this major bicycle trip,
My hair
and
story.
it was with a group of people. She was educated, highly educated. She
Yeah.
had an elite education, including from my university, right? And she met a guy who was a firefighter, and she said, you really on this trip saw who people really were. And this was a wonderful man. He was so kind, so helpful, put himself out there for everybody. They fell in love on the bike trip and they came back. He made a major move cross country. She had frozen her eggs. They weren't even planning on having a child at that moment, but they had a sort of natural conception for the first child. And then she was in her early 40s by the time they were contemplating having a second child. She used her frozen eggs, and they were
Yay.
successful in having what she called a frozen egg baby. So it was a very good story. But that is an example of mixed collar mating. He did have college education, but he not, to the degrees and the level that she did. And still, she found a wonderful, loving man who loved her for who she was.
Well, there
And
was a
so-
part that I really loved in that book where she says, all my friends went to like Yale Law School, Harvard Business School. Like, what are my friends going to think? And then she was like, that's my shit, that's my own bias. And these are not her exact words, but kind of like, who cares? And I need to work on that with myself, of worrying and what my highly educated friends are going to think. Like, you're usually more worried about it than anybody else, and I think that was really inspiring, that she was like, who gives a fuck? This is a great guy. And I
they
also
all of her friends loved
Of
him
course,
too,
yeah.
But she said, I really honestly, I had to work through that he
Yeah,
didn't come
yep.
from the same sort
Mhm.
of educational milieu that I was used to. Yeah.
So we did want to talk about some of the positives, more empowering things. I mean, there's a chapter in your book, this is chapter 2, the chapter that starts with the story of Lily and Jack, about freezing eggs post breakup, post divorce, and it can provide a sense of relief almost, and is something that can have people feel empowered and like they're really doing something to further what they want their future to be. And we just wanted to kind of talk about the empowerment and the support and the positive impacts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I asked all the women at the end of these long conversations, do you have any recommendations? And also at the end of the day, how do you feel about having done it? Because they had all undertaken at least one cycle of egg freezing. And more than 90% of women had something positive to say about the egg freezing. I ended up with a huge chart in one of the chapters of the book about empowerment. Women often use the term, I felt so weirdly and wildly empowered by doing it. It's the one thing I could do to sort of control the timing. It gave me some sense of optimism. It gave me a little more reprieve in looking for a relationship. Huge psychic relief. I just felt like this huge burden on my shoulders had been, this pressure release valve. So there were about 10 different categories of sort of positive attributes that women believed that egg freezing had done for them. And it's really important to say. And there were really women who regarded egg freezing in, frankly, a feminist light. They said this is just a new technology that's giving women a lot more reproductive choice. It's helping with reproductive justice because women of different backgrounds are getting access to this technology. We should look at it as a new option that gives women more choices in this difficult backdrop that we've been talking about. And I also find it really interesting because you women are in California. I interviewed mostly women from the East Coast and the West Coast, and then about 25% of women in other cities all around the country. But women in tech actually were very powerful in saying, there's been such a negative backlash for the big tech companies. They were the first to offer egg freezing as a fertility benefit. But I fought hard in my company to get egg freezing covered in our health insurance. And why? Because it's discrimination against single women. Married women who worked for my company, if you're married, a lot of Fortune 500 companies in the health insurance plan offer infertility diagnosis and IVF as a fertility benefit. Here I am a woman, age 35. I am trying to prevent my own future infertility. I want to have egg freezing covered because it is really important for my own reproductive future. And so women felt that the fact that egg freezing isn't covered by health insurance is really a form of discrimination against single women and including LGBTQ, lesbian women who are not married, So the fact that insurance requires you to be married in order to get access. So that was really interesting. So there were a lot of feminist arguments really about why egg freezing is important and why insurance coverage in the future would really be important for women. So I thought that was an interesting part of the study.
Absolutely. I will say the city that was the bleakest was DC.
Yeah.
Throughout this book.
That's what John talked about that a lot
for
too,
women.
DC.
Yeah. So I hate to say it. If you're from DC and you're going to read this book, just brace for impact because it's just, there's a lot of California, but
my ex is single. He lives there.
I know we know a great guy in DC.
I actually thought about just letting him knock me up. By accident.
I would love that. I mean, I'm sure that people have a lot of questions about egg freezing. Of course, this wasn't like a technical, interview with a fertility doctor, very obviously, but you do cover some in the book of there's no guarantees. And you covered a lot of if you do this many cycles, you get this many eggs, this could be your percentage of, them being viable and things like that. And I just obviously want to stress to our listeners, this is stuff to speak to your doctor about. And I was saying with Rayna, my gynecologist in New York, I just miss her so much. She asked me the first time I saw her, she, saw my age, saw I was in my mid-30s when I saw her for the first time and asked what I planned to do. And I was very I'm not having kids. And she was like, okay, conversation's over. If you are 35 and your gynecologist isn't asking you about this, it's really important that you have this person that is going to speak to you about this and give you your options and go to bat for you. Some of these women that you spoke to and we've heard too of this didn't come up. Why didn't I hear about this? It should be required, I guess, if you're a gynecologist and you have a patient that's a woman of a certain age.
Yeah. And I went, just to tag on to what Ashley said, I went and it was a really nice experience just to have my fertility checked, to talk about how many eggs I may have, to talk about what the cost was. I didn't move forward with it ultimately. It is really laborious. It's hard to give yourself the shots. I didn't necessarily know if I wanted to do it, but I had a really positive experience just getting the information. And I think people just put that off, and I want to encourage people to do that.
Yeah, I have to say there was a whole chapter about these very things. So, the fact that we American women, no matter how educated, are not getting really good fertility education about, when does fertility decline start? And it really starts at about age 32. Your fertility starts to decline at that point, and it really rapidly starts to decline at age 37. Most American women have no idea about that, even very highly educated ones who felt that they were in the dark, partly because at their annual well woman visit with their gynecologist, there was no discussion about this. It was always about, oh, let's just re-up, your contraception.
Bad. No gynecologist ever told me this, by the way. I went because we did an episode about this and a clinic reached out. So
my gynecologist, I've had really lucky where I think even early 30s back in Atlanta or when I first moved to New York, they were asking me about this. I guess I've gotten lucky.
You were lucky. So many women had this experience of no one ever talking to them about it and just assuming that you just want to re-up your contraception, right? So everybody, it was vast majority of women were on hormonal contraception and had never gone off for years. Even 2 decades. they get there to age 35 and they decide they might want to do egg freezing. It's really the first time they ever had the conversation about whether they're fertile or not. And, sadly, some women who thought they were being proactive, going like you did, Rayna, they found that actually they were experiencing something called premature ovarian aging, that their fertility wasn't good. It was devastating to learn that when they felt that they had never been, talked to about it by their gynecologist. But I have to say, there were some wonderful, mostly female gynecologists out there who
I don't want to say they're a lot of bad.
No,
I've only had great experiences. So.
Yeah, you have. And so they were sort of initiators of this conversation. I think that there's a sensitivity about talking to single women, like, assuming, well, it makes you feel bad because you don't have a partner. But women should be asked, do you want to have children? If so, we need to talk about this. And the other thing that egg freezing affords, if for those women who decide to do it, it does afford the conversation about having children without a partner. And so many women who had frozen their eggs were thinking about that. Do I have the economic wherewithal and the logistical support to be a so-called single mother by choice? I mean, that's the term that's being used, even though I'm going to say it really might be more like single mother by circumstance. It wasn't the circumstance that you'd hoped for. But there were some examples, some really lovely examples in my book of women who just decided, I didn't find the person, so I'm going to do this on my own, and actually were successful with their frozen eggs and having a baby. So it's another opportunity, I would say, that egg freezing has afforded women a little more time to think about that as well.
And I think all of this is taking that pressure off. If you're a person that's just in your head spiraling about this constantly, it can alleviate some of that. And
absolutely,
you see that all the time. You see people that freeze their eggs or freeze their embryos and then get pregnant naturally because you're a little more relaxed about the whole thing. Not always, but you certainly see that happen. And I mean, we always want to empower our listeners to talk to your doctor. Yes, they should approach you first. I mean, I think that there's an approach that's like, would you like to talk about your fertility? I'm here if you would. It's not an attack because you're single, but I think if they're not, you should bring it up. Can we talk about my fertility? Whenever you want, this is what they're there for. So
I don't think they automatically check either. Like no one gave me a fertility check. And I think it would be nice to know at 32 that you may face some challenges and these are the steps that I can take before it's too late. And again, even if you're not going to freeze your eggs, just to know that this is what your landscape looks like was really nice for me.
You're absolutely right. Fertility testing is not done routinely in sort of normal gynecological exams. Yeah. And so, that's something that maybe needs to change in our society. I do want to say too, egg freezing is not a guarantee. The term insurance policy should never be applied to egg freezing.
It's not. It's not
an insurance policy. And, there really needs to be what I call patient-centered egg freezing. The clinics could be doing a much better job of helping women, single women, go through this in a way that doesn't make them feel so bad, because it was very hard often for women to be the single woman going through the injection classes with, married women. Women often said, I was looking at all the rings on other women's fingers and there I was by myself. There has been this move to egg freezing only clinics, places, sort of safe spaces for single women to do it by themselves because they don't feel safe in the sort of very married IVF clinic setting. Yep. So it's tough and it's so expensive. And so when I asked women, what is your recommendation? The biggest recommendation that was just the overarching call of women was something needs to be done about the cost or making this covered by insurance, because I have a sister or a really close friend. She's a teacher. She doesn't make the highest salary. Mm-hmm. She really could use egg freezing, but there's no way in the world she's going to ever be able to afford it. It's unaffordable for most American women. It's really expensive. And so it really limits the choice of women who might benefit from egg freezing simply because it's too expensive. And it creates some hierarchies between those women who can afford it and those women who can't. And that is what we would call a reproductive justice issue.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It's just super frustrating.
I feel like I was on the verge of tears this whole time. I love what you've done for women to just validate how they feel about this and how they feel about egg freezing and dating and the landscape. And it isn't all bad. And there are wonderful people that love you, but I know it does feel like what's wrong with me sometimes. So your book was amazing. Like we really loved reading it.
We can't recommend it enough. Please, everyone, go buy this book.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I really feel if there's one thing, it is a humanizing book. It just, I think, would make women readers feel much less alone if they're in the situation. If you've frozen the eggs already, you've been there, done that, and it's going to, make you feel like you know the story. But for women who are contemplating doing it, and I really think it's a book that should be read by more American men. I have a son, and he said, "Yeah, really, Mom, men should be reading this book too, because men and women are in this together." And I think families also, like moms and dads, will have a lot more appreciation perhaps of what their daughters are going through when contemplating egg freezing. So I really have to thank all the incredible women who opened their hearts to me and just with a great deal of candor really shared their stories with me. I'm very grateful to those who participated in this particular study.
We are too.
Yeah,
I really loved reading all the stories.
Well, Motherhood on Ice is available everywhere you buy books. And where else can people find you? Do you have a website or Instagram or anything else that we can direct people to?
Yeah, I do have a website. It's www.marciainhorn.com. And the book is available now in hardcover book for $30, and then it's available by Kindle, and there is going to soon be an audiobook as well. It will be, read by somebody, not by me, but there'll be an audiobook for those who don't want to actually hold the book and read it. But it's available on Amazon through NYU Press. New York University Press is the publisher.
Okay.
And thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for inviting me to your great podcast.
Oh, we loved having you. Tell your daughter we said hi. You told us she's a fan.
My daughter Justine is a big fan.
Hi, Justine.
I will tell.
Hi. We wish we would have seen you at the New Haven show, which is where you live, and one of the craziest shows we've ever had in our lives.
Next time we'll be back. Don't worry. We loved it there. Well, thank you so much. And you know where to find us, girlsgottaeat.com. You can find everything there. Check out the website Refresh that we recently got and get tickets. Last call for those Ohio tickets. We will see you this weekend, and find episodes on there and merchandise and all the things. Follow us at Girls Gotta Eat Podcast. That's both on Instagram and on TikTok. My handle is Ash Hess. Rayna is Rayna.Greenberg. And Vibes Only, like we mentioned, the 1-year anniversary, vibesonly.com, Vibes Only on Instagram, and sign up for that newsletter. And we'll see you next week.
Have a good week, guys.
Bye.